And just, when I'm recording and you ask a question, you don't hear it on the mic, so you don't have to feel that the whole world just heard you ask a question, okay? I promise. Okay, so today we're doing rates, and we're actually doing rates and ratios. Now, does anybody know the difference between a rate and a ratio? Any guesses? They're spelled differently. Anything else? No? Okay, well, let's see how that goes. Okay, so let's first talk, here is Rachel's text data. Okay, let's just look at this. On Wednesday, she sent 46. On Thursday, 38. On Friday, 81. Here's Sarah's. On Wednesday, she sent 23. Thursday, 40. Okay, pretty straightforward. Now, compare the number of texts Rachel sent on Friday to the number of texts Sarah sent on Monday. So Rachel sent on Friday 81. And we go dot dot. And so I'm doing these two. Rachel sent 81, so Sarah sent 54. So the ratio is 81 to 54. For every 81 texts Rachel sends, Sarah sends 84. Now, this can be what we call reduced to 3 to 2. Or you can write it like this, 3 to 2. Now I know we sometimes think of, isn't that 3 over 2? Isn't that 3 halves? When we're talking ratios, it's 3, 2. Okay, so this always means 2. Same with this. Now, what's a good way to take 81 to 54 and reduce it? Anyone know any tricks? I'll show you a trick, okay? So, now, and just so you know, this calculator, the TI-83 Plus, the one that I have, this is the calculator that you want to get. And if you don't have one right now, I would really recommend getting one because you'll need it for the next 2 years. Between 20-2 and 30-2, you can learn a lot of cool things in the calculator. And if you can master it, it really helps get you all your answers on your diploma. But if you don't own one, you don't really get that 2 years of practice. And you can go to Kijiji, like they're $160 at like Walmart and stuff, but you can go to Kijiji and there's tons of them on there, they're $20. And I recommend just getting one, test it out really, really well, make sure it works, and and then you always have it, right? Because this thing does some pretty cool tricks, but it does so much that it's kind of hard to explain. The instruction manual is pretty darn big. Okay, so all you have to do is go like this. 81 divided by 54. Oops, I put 2 there, I don't want that. Okay, ready? And then you hit the math button. The math button's right here. You see it? Hit math, and then just hit enter twice. And it will always reduce it for you. Okay? So how did I do that? I put in the calc, I put 81 over 54, and then you hit the math button. So I always put rectangles or boxes around anything that's a button on your calculator, and then enter, enter. And that will always reduce your fractions for you. If you hate reducing, that will do it for you. It's like magic. Now, why is this called a ratio? Because they have the same units. A ratio always have the same units. Okay, on today's quiz today, those did not have the same units. It was kilometers per second, and those are called rates. And when they are the same units, you don't put them. So not only do ratios have the same units, you don't put the units. Okay, you don't put 3 texts to 2 texts. You just put 3 to 2. The ratio of texts is 3 to 2. That's it. Okay? Now, and we did Rachel to Sarah. See how it's Rachel first, then Sarah. The next one asks, what is the comparing the number of texts Sarah sent to Rachel? So if we do Sarah to Rachel, don't mix them up. Sarah would be 54 to Rachel is 81. And then you get out your magic box there and you go 54 divided by 81, and you don't even press enter, you just go math, enter, enter, and it's 2 to 3. Or 2 to 3. So they can mess with the order, just make sure you put it in the correct order. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah? I guess we'll see when we start trying them. Okay, so what's the difference? They're just reciprocals of each other, right? They're reciprocals. So they go like this, they just flip. So the next part is we talk about the comparison of quantities, usually two, that cannot be expressed in the same units. We call that a rate. Okay? So Rachel sent 165 texts in 3 days. Okay? So we would have to write this as oh yeah. Okay, so she sent, so Rachel was 165 texts in 3 days. See how those must have units. That is a rate. So rate has units. And they're going to be different units. The next thing it says, express the total number of texts that Sarah sent. Now Sarah, if you add them up, because Sarah's 23 plus 40, so 23 plus 40 plus 54 equals 117 texts. So her rate would be, so this is Sarah. So Sarah is 117 texts in 3 days. So that's called a rate, texts per days. The next thing we got to talk about is what's called unit rate. Now the unit rate means that the denominator must be 1. Okay? Because right now I have Rachel doing 165 texts in 3 days. What I want to know is how many texts per day. Now how would I find that? How would I find out texts per day? What would you guys, for Rachel, how many texts do you think she does a day? Divided by 3, right? So for Rachel, let's just talk about Rachel first. You would go 165 texts per day, or for 3 days. And we want to equal that to how many texts for 1 day. Now as you see, remember I told you that we want x by itself and on top. Well, it's already on top. That's good. But it's not by itself. So what you would do is you would bring this up here and you'd have a 1 and then you'd have 165 times 1 and then divided by 3. So really you're just dividing by 3. Okay? And when you do that, you will get 39 texts per day. Now you don't have to put per 1 day, but it's not wrong. But we usually don't say I ran, 5 kilometers per 1 hour. We just usually say I run 5 kilometers per hour, right? So you can, now, right, I was doing Rachel. Did I do the wrong? Yeah, I was doing Rachel. Now I got to do Sarah. I haven't done Sarah yet. It only asked for Sarah, but I want to do both. Okay, so for Sarah, she does 117 texts in 3 days. So what would her unit rate be? So Sarah does 39 texts per day. Oh, I see. Okay. Rachel's 55 texts per day. That doesn't make sense. Yeah, 39 didn't make sense, did it? So this is called unit rate. The rate for 1 unit, 1 thing, 1 kilometer, 1 second, 1 day. Okay, so let's just kind of sum it all up. What did we learn here? Maybe you didn't learn anything. Maybe like, I've known this so long, you're wasting my time. Okay, now, so a ratio, I'm going to now show off, and I'm getting my highlighter out. Okay, so a ratio compares quantities with the same units. A rate compares quantities with different units. Now, does anybody have a creative way to make sure we don't mess that up and we think ratios are different units and rates are the same? Is there any way, anything that we could use so we don't mix these up? Any creative people out there that like making up things so they can remember things better? No? Okay, maybe we'll just leave that right now and we'll see if we can think of something. Nobody's got anything? How do we know ratio would be the same units? Rate would be different. Or is it just so easy we don't even have to? So easy? Okay, now, again, the ratio compares quantities of the same type of object. So the no units. Okay, and ratios can be in the 2 forms, A to B or A to B. They mean the same thing. Remember, this means 2. Maybe you hate units, and hate rhymes with rate. That's how you can remember. Okay, now when we're doing a rate is a comparison between 2 quantities where one is changing relative to the other. So you have to have units. You need units. And then unit rate a unit rate is when it's done with a denominator of 1. So it's just as easy as dividing by the denominator and making it per 1. So just always make sure if you're asked for unit rate, you are putting having a 1 at the bottom. Okay, we don't have to go through all the reading. Now here's another thing that Kim actually she knows it's $4.95 for 3 bottles. How much would it be for 7 bottles? Now from the work we've been doing, how would you solve this one? Right, the 7 can take the escalator and come up here. Now guess what? X is by itself and it's on top. So all you have to do is go 495 times 7 and then divide by 3. And you'll find out how much for 7 bottles. How much is it? $11.55. So that's one way to do it. The other way you can do it is find the unit rate. So if you take $4.95 and divide by 3, how much is that a bottle? So this is $1.65 a bottle, and now that you know what it is, then you can just put this in here and find out how much it is for 7, and you do get $11.55 as well. So there's the two ways you can do it. You can just put it in the equivalent ratios or rates and then find X, or find the unit and then multiply it by how many. Okay, let's just do one more example. We're not going to do example 3, we're just going to do example 2 here. Paul hosted an annual wrap-up party for his hockey team. This year he is hosting a party again, and like last year he'll be serving prime rib. Last year he bought 8 kilograms of prime rib for $173.12. This year he bought the roast for $10.13 a pound. And 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds. Use unit analysis in your work to determine which rib roast is most expensive. Okay, so we know we're talking about rib roast. And the question is, use unit analysis to determine which rib roast was most expensive. So here's what we got this 8 kilogram of prime rib for $173.12. And then this year he bought it for $10.13 a pound. So many people actually, I know you may be surprised with this, but many people could not figure this out, which one is a better deal, right? Because they're like, oh, I suck at math, I don't know, someone tell me which one's better. What are we going to do to be able to see which is a better deal? Any strategies anybody's got? Got to get the same units, right? So maybe if we found out what's 8 kilograms. Okay, so do we have kilograms to pounds? 1 kilogram equals 2.2, right? So 8 kilograms times. Now we got to put 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. Where does the kilogram go? Where does the 2.2 pounds go? So the 1 kilogram should go here, so they cancel, right? So put your 2.2 pounds, and what is that? Does anyone know? 17 point. That's it, just stops there nice. Okay, and that would be pounds. Now, just so you know, LB is pounds. That's like it's been around for 8 million years. That's why it's LB. So basically now I'm paying $173.12 for 17.6 LBs. So now let's find the unit, because this one's in unit rate. It's $10.13 a pound. So what would unit rate be? I actually don't have the answer, so somebody has to find it for me. How much would it be for 1 pound? Because the way I did it, I changed it to kilograms. Because you can do that, right? You could change this one to kilograms and try it. Okay, anyone find out what 173.12 divided by 17.6 is? 9.836. So 9.84. So $9.84 a pound. Okay, so that is last year. So last year's was cheaper. Actually, this has which is more expensive, but we could say this year's was more expensive. So we're using some of the stuff we learned yesterday too to be able to do this. Okay. So we're going to do 1, 4, 5, 8, 9, and 10. There's no ACEGs. Cool. So did we want to use our groups from yesterday or do new groups? New? I'll hand out new cards as we go in. Switch her up.